Let's start with the basics. What we're measuring here is called points percentage, P% for short. It's the NHL's standard efficiency metric. How many points a team actually earned out of the maximum they could have earned. 50% is the playoff borderline. Anything below 40% means a team is in serious trouble. And the question we're answering today is simple. Does the calendar matter? Specifically, does it make a difference whether a team plays 2 games in a row with 0 rest between them, what we call back-to-back, versus having 1, 2, or 3 days to recover? Across 2,236 games this season, we have enough data to find out. Before we dive into numbers, take a look at the distribution. 59% of all games are played with just 1 day's rest. That's the standard NHL rhythm. Back-to-back games account for 16%, roughly 1 in every 6 games. And those categories at the right, 3 and 4+ days? I'll flag those now. The samples are so small that anything we find there should be treated with serious caution. The headline numbers tell a clear story. Back-to-back games dropped the league average P% from 57.1% to 53.3%, a fall of 3.8 percentage points. That sounds modest, but in the context of a tight playoff race, those points compound over a season. What's particularly interesting is where the damage comes from. Look at the GF/GP chart on the bottom right. Goals scored dropped by 0.21 per game in back-to-backs, from 3.11 to 2.90. But notice goals against barely move 3.04 to 3.16, an increase of just 0.12. The top chart confirms the overall pattern. P% climbs from B2B through 2 days of rest, with the day 3 spike being a statistical artifact we'll address shortly. The single clearest insight from this slide: fatigue is an offensive problem. When you're tired, creativity suffers. The instinctive, positional defensive work holds up far longer than the sharp, creative attacking play. Here's where the analysis gets genuinely interesting, and where the league average completely fails to tell the story. Look at the left side. Buffalo at 77.3%, Vegas and Winnipeg at 75%, New York Islanders at 73.1%. These teams are performing above their own regular day averages in back-to-back games. Then scroll to the bottom. Nashville at 31.8%, New York Rangers at 13.6%. That Rangers number is not a typo. 1 win from 11 back-to-back games. That is a systemic, structural problem, not a rough patch. The table on the right shows you exactly what's behind each bar. Columbus Blue Jackets with 14 games, the largest B2B sample in the dataset, winning 9. That's a 67.9% conversion rate. Meanwhile, the Rangers are 191 in the same situation. The spread is 63.7 percentage points between the best and worst team. When you hear that back-to-back games hurt performance, ask which team's performance you're talking about, because this slide shows you they are not remotely the same story. This is the baseline: 59% of all NHL games, the rhythm the schedule is built around, and the category with the most reliable sample sizes, between 34 and 50 games per team, which gives us high statistical confidence. Carolina Hurricanes lead at 73.2%, followed by Tampa Bay Lightning at 71.6% and Dallas Stars at 71.4%. These aren't just good teams. These are teams performing at an elite level consistently throughout the season's core games. At the other end, Vancouver Canucks at 24.4% with 1 day's rest is the number that should grab your attention. That's not a B2B problem. That's a fundamental performance problem that spans the entire regular schedule. Their apparent B2B performance later in the deck looks deceptively positive precisely because their day 1 baseline is so low. Philadelphia Flyers at 65.1% in 1-day games is a quietly impressive number. They're outperforming their overall ranking in their most common situation. That tells you something about the character of their roster. 2 days of rest is where preparation kicks in. Time for extra film study, tactical adjustments, recovery from minor injuries. And the numbers reflect that. The league average climbs to 57.8%, marginally better than the 1-day baseline. But the real story is the variance within this category. Colorado Avalanche at 88.5%. That is the single highest P% of any team in any rest category across the entire dataset. 13 games, 11 wins. That's not a small sample. That's a team that fundamentally performs better when it has time to prepare, suggesting their game is built on systematic execution rather than reactive intensity. Pittsburgh Penguins at 78.6% with 7 games, Detroit at 75% with 12. These are teams that reward rest. Then look at the other end. Calgary Flames at 27.3%, Winnipeg Jets at 31.8%. More time to prepare actively hurt these teams relative to their one-day performance. This challenges the intuitive assumption that rest always helps. For some teams, the rhythm of frequent games is actually their strength. I want to be very direct with you about this slide. The warning banner at the top is not decorative. This data has an average of 2.3 games per team. 9 teams showing 100% P% sounds extraordinary, until you realize most of them played exactly 1 game in this category and won it. The overall league average of 62.3% looks like the best performance of any rest category. It is not a real signal. With samples this small, we're essentially describing individual game outcomes rather than patterns. What this slide is genuinely useful for is showing which teams had any games with 3 days rest, and broadly whether they won or lost. The bars and table are accurate, the limitation is purely statistical power. If you want to use this data meaningfully, filter to teams with at least 5 games in this category, and even then, apply significant uncertainty margins. Treat this slide as context, not conclusion. Let's get tactical. This slide gets into the mechanism behind the numbers, not just that back-to-backs hurt, but exactly where the damage appears. Power play efficiency drops from 21.3% to 19.8% in back-to-back games. That's a drop of 1.4 percentage points, and it's not trivial. The power play demands precise timing, creative zone entry, sharp passing decisions under pressure. Exactly the skills that deteriorate first under fatigue. Then look at penalty kill. 78.7% to 79.0%. Statistically zero change. PK is driven by structure, positioning, and collective awareness, patterns that hold up under fatigue far better than offensive improvisation. The bar chart in the top right makes the PP% trend visual. 19.8%, then 21.3%, flat to 21.3% with 2 days rest, then 23.7% with 3, though again that last number carries the small sample caveat. The team breakdown table at the bottom is striking. Vegas Golden Knights at 36.1% power play efficiency in back-to-back games, nearly double the league average for that situation. That is elite skill execution under fatigue. Utah Mammoth at 3.7% is catastrophic, and it almost certainly correlates with their overall B2B struggles we saw in slide 3. Let me bring this together with 5 things I want you to take away from this analysis, and then a table on the right that reframes the entire discussion. First, back-to-back games do reduce performance at the league level, but by a modest 3.8 percentage points on average. That's real, but it's not catastrophic. Second, and this is the most important finding, the spread between teams is 63.7 percentage points. When someone tells you B2B games hurt teams, that statement is simultaneously true for 14 teams and false for 18 others. You cannot generalize. You have to know the specific team. Third, the damage is asymmetric. Offense deteriorates, defense holds. Power play drops, penalty kill doesn't move. This is consistent fatigue physiology. Explosive, creative actions fail before disciplined, reactive ones. Fourth, the 3-day rest effect is a statistical illusion driven by tiny sample sizes. Do not use it for prediction. Fifth, Vancouver Canucks are the most important outlier in the dataset. Their B2B number looks neutral because their day 1 baseline is the worst in the league. They're a team in crisis at every rest level. And on the right, this is what I'd call the true elite tier. 5 teams that perform at a high level regardless of whether they played yesterday. Dallas Stars, Carolina, Colorado, Tampa Bay, Buffalo. These are franchises that have built rosters that are schedule-proof. That is, in data terms, a real and measurable competitive advantage. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.